Hey everybody, welcome to another live stream. I hope you're all doing well. Happy Friday to you all. It is 7 p.m. here on the East Coast, and tonight we're going to do something cool and something I've never done before. We are going to listen to some of our subscribers' mixes, and I'm going to give you some feedback, and we're going to all take a listen to some stuff. So this is a lot of fun. So I put out a post, I don't know, a week or two ago, asking people to send in their mixes if they wanted it to be featured on the live stream. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Let me know if you can hear me and see me okay. And we got a bunch of submissions, a lot more than I was thinking I was going to get. So I randomly threw them all in a pile, and I picked out 5 or 6 of them we're going to listen to tonight. And then we still have a bunch left over that we'll do maybe in a couple of weeks. So if you want one of your mixes reviewed on one of our future live streams, I got to put the link in the description box so you know where to go to do that. I'll get that in a minute. I'll go take a look and get you the right link. The special link so you can submit your mix. But if you actually, there is a video on the channel that I did just last week. It says, send me your mix. Just look at my last 3 or 4 videos. You'll see that video in that description box. There's a link. Fill out the form, send me your thing, and now you'll have your mix sent over and we'll do it. So we're going to listen to 5 of them tonight. Okay, before we get started, if you're new here, welcome. Make sure you give the thumbs up. If this live stream is helpful to you in any way, or you want to support what I do here, go ahead and hit that super thanks. It really does help. I thank you so much. And Dave SJ here in the chat, my partner in crime, will be putting all kinds of links so you can check out the free mixing course. It's at Home Recording Made Easy. If you don't have that, go get yourself a free mixing course. Right on the homepage, you can open up another web browser, and I'll be giving you some other information about stuff that we can do here as we go forward. So that's what we're going to do. Is that cool for everybody? I know we're just at a little over 7. I want to make sure that we get a couple minutes here just to make sure everybody gets, starts filing in, because I know there's a slight delay here on YouTube. So we'll wait a couple minutes. If you have any questions, put it in the chat now. Dave just put the link in the chat for the live stream mix critique. You can click that link, and it's just a short form you have to fill out, a couple of questions, and then you're going to send me your mix. And I have that form right here for the people that that submitted their mixes, so I can know, what your struggles are, how you mix the song, and a couple other things. And so that'll be really cool. So click that link in the chat if you want one of your mixes reviewed on the next broadcast. Is that cool? Hey, Mike, how are you? Good afternoon. Thank you for joining. We'll wait maybe 2 more minutes. If anyone has any questions, make sure you put them in the chat now, and then we'll jump right into these mixes. And if you're coming in late, or if you're watching this on the replay, have no fear, this will be on YouTube, so you can watch it in the future. From the Philippines, hey, John Doe, how are you, buddy? Good to see you from the Philippines. It is good morning in the Philippines. Awesome, it's good evening here. What time is it in the morning over there? What time is it in the morning? Let me know. Oakland, California. Welcome, 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 Mike. Good to see you, man. I appreciate you. Thanks for joining us for today. So let's go ahead and let's get ourselves set up here in the DAW. So we're going to be on this screen here, and we're just going to jump into this. We're going to jump in. If anyone has any questions or anything, now, if your mix was featured tonight and you're not here at the live stream, that's okay. You'll be able to watch it on the replay. Hopefully the people that submitted their mix will be here. If you submitted your mix and for some reason I didn't get to it tonight, it'll be in the next live stream broadcast, which will be probably in about 2 weeks, as I said. But if you're on the homerecordingmadeeasy.com website and you're part of my email list, you'll get notified when we're going to be doing that. So let's start off with, and I want to thank everybody for sending in their mixes. This was really cool. So the first mix we're going to listen to tonight, this is by Bob Tolput, is his name. Now, again, you had to fill out some questions, and I got them right here about how he mixes a song. We're going to get a little bit of background on what Bob did here, as far as what tools did he use, what DAWs he using, what plugins did he use, what was his biggest challenge. So the first question is, what plugins or hardware or gear did he use to mix this particular song? And what he said was he mixed this all in Logic. Cool. He used the CLA Mix Hub on most of the channels by Waves. He used the Universal Audio Oxide tape machine on the drum bus. And he used the stock compressor for parallel drums. He used Trigger 2 for kick and snare enhancement. R-Bass by Waves on the bass and the floor tom. And then for vocals, he used the stock pitch correction. That must be something a plugin utility in Logic. Vocal Writer, Silk Vocal, Ozone Vocal Doubler. Wow. And then a stock multiband compressor. And then he used Magic 7. I don't know that for all the reverbs. I'm not sure. I've never heard of Magic 7, but that's what he used for the reverbs. His guitars were recorded. The delays were recorded at tracking. So any guitar effects that were done like on his pedal board. And then on his master bus, he used the CLA mixdown, the Universal Audio tape, a Logic mastering plugin, and a stock EQ. And he says his biggest challenge when he came to mixing this song was separation on the drum tracks. He says his snare sound always seems to be a weakness. All right, Bob, let's see if we can help you with that weakness. So here's Bob's track. Let me know if you can hear it okay in the chat, and if everything sounds okay, I'll try to keep my eye on the meters. So let's listen to this song by Bob Tolput. Here we go. Okay, thus far, let me just give you my first impressions. Hopefully the sound's okay. I turned it up a little bit, Dave, there on the Ecamm. I'm getting close to the red, so I just wanna be careful, but I did turn up the audio a little bit. So far, pretty good. Okay, so I'm gonna drop on here a little bit of an EQ here and see if we can maybe help this a little bit. So give me a second to get my good old trusty Pro Q3 out here by FabFilter. And as a matter of fact, while we're here, let me just take a second and drop these on all these tracks for tonight, just in case we need it. I should have been a little more prepared, yeah? That's okay. That's okay. All right, so we're gonna shrink this down. We're gonna take a listen to this. So my first thought is, sounds good. I love the sound of the vocal. Sounds like the bass guitar to me is a little muddy. It gets a little bit in the way and kind of clashing and rubbing a little bit with the kick drum. As far as your snare sound being your biggest weakness, your snare sounds good. Your drums overall sound pretty good, but they seem like they're a little bit seated back in the mix. With a track like this, like a bluesy rock track, I would want the drums to be a little bit more forward. Now, it could be that the bass is just getting in the way. So I'm going to try to see if we could clean up some of that low mid thing. Let's keep trying here. Let's take a listen.
Gonna bring me down.
So dipping a little bit out here at around, what's around 180 or so, 200s, taking a couple of dB out there, kind of cleans up that mid thing a little bit. The bass is still kind of it's aggressive and it's in your face, which is great. I would try to maybe lower the bass just a little bit, just to get out of the way of the drums. And I'd like to push the drums a little bit more forward. Around 5K, I'm trying to bring a little bit more snap of the snare out. I mean, overall, it sounds good. Now, when we get down to the guitar solo here, I want to back up a little bit. The guitar solo seems like it's a little buried. Let's listen to that. So I think I would be doing a little bit of some volume rides and some automation on that solo. It gets buried in places. Now, the cool thing about the track, there's a lot of effects. I mean, that guitar has a ton of flanging and phasing and all kinds of cool stuff on it, but it gets a little busy. It's a busy track. It's a dense track. So again, I would be careful with the low mids. I would still try to bring those drums a little bit forward. The fact that you're using trigger 2 where you're kicking snare, your snare sounds pretty good. You say your snare's always been your weakness. I think the snare sounds okay. I just think it's a little set back in the mix, that's all. And the bass guitar, again, I think it just gets a little bit muddy and it's getting in the way of some of the drums here. All right, cool. Let's just back it up a little bit. I just want to hear towards the end here again. I mean, overall, a pretty solid mix, man. It's a good track. Great Hendrixy kind of vibe there. It's like a psychedelic kind of rock thing, blues rock thing. Very, very cool. Very cool. Again, that would be the only two things I would work a little bit on that bass guitar. I think if we clean that up and kind of dipped it a little bit and brought the drums a little bit more forward, I think we would clean up that end of the mix, and then maybe in spots where you got a lot of the solo stuff happening, maybe poking that through a little bit more. Love the vocal. Sounds like you got a lot of stuff going on in the vocal effects wise, and it's got that cool kind of vibe to it. But overall, a pretty solid mix, man. You do a pretty good job mixing. I don't know if you're here tonight, if you're in the chat. If you are, let us know. And it looks like you said you only have about 1 to 2 years of mixing experience, which for someone that's got about 1 to 2 years, this is a pretty solid mix. As far as by me listening to this, where would I tell you to maybe focus on next? Well, if you were looking at some additional training to grow your mixing skills, I would say definitely check out, because you're using a lot of third-party like analog plugins. You may want to check out Mixing with Analog Style Plugins Made Easy or the Mixing Master Classes. Those would be the next two things I would push you towards if you were looking for some additional training to help yourself grow. And by the way, if anybody wants any training course tonight, Dave will put the link in the chat. You can use the coupon code YouTube25. That will take 25% off anything on the website. So if you want to pick up one of the courses that I'm talking about, get yourself a discount. Don't pay full price. But that's what I would recommend, Bob. Mixing with Analog Style Plugins, the Mixing Master Class, and then if you really want to get on a program where you're doing new mixes every month and you're really honing in on your mixing skills, if you're looking to really get into the craft, check out the link Dave's going to put in the chat for the Mixing Academy. Check that out. That's something that if you really are into mixing and you really want to take your skills up, Mixing Academy is where you want to go. But thanks so much, brother. That was a really cool tune, man. That was a great song and a great mix. I really do appreciate it. Okay. I don't know if Bob was here tonight, but if he's, maybe he'll watch it on the replay. Okay, really cool. Now, let's go to Pat. Pat is up next. Let's see what Pat mix, what his stuff was here. So as far as his plugins and such, he used, looks like he's using a lot of PreSonus stuff, which is cool, Studio One stuff. He used Ampire, which is the PreSonus guitar plugin. So it's guitar sounds or Ampire, that'll be interesting. He used the SSL native channel strip and the PreSonus Pro EQ, awesome. He also used the Learn Compressor, Learn EQ. Oh, I don't know those two. He used the Joe Gilder vocal plugin, which I heard Joe Gilder's got a plugin on. I never checked it out. That's kind of cool. And he also used CLA vocals. He used the Universal Audio Sound City Studios for his room sounds. And he used the Pultec EQs, LA2As, Echo Boy by Sound Toys for his delays, and the SSL native compressor, and the Softube multi-track tape. So he's got a mixture of some stock plugins, some third-party plugins, really cool. He says his biggest challenge or frustration when it comes to mixing the song was the compression EQ vocals. He's been mixing more than 5 years. Awesome, we got a veteran here. All right, Pat, let's take a listen. Here's Pat's tune. Here we go. Okay, so the first thing I want to just point out, there's no lead into the song at all. It's like 0 seconds, we're jumping right in. I don't know if that was just an export in Studio One. Maybe you didn't put your start and end markers at the right point, Pat, but you want to give yourself like a couple of second lead in because it sounds like we chopped off the front. Could have just been an oversight, but I figured I would point that out. Here we go.
The free and easy soul is rare. You'll know it when you find one. They have a certain laissez-faire, a serious sense of fun. It could mean duration. It could mean time in jail. It could mean your name and nights. It could mean success or failure.
Okay, so my first thought is right off the bat, I love the spacey kind of effect thing on the vocal. Sounds like the sounds like an 80s tune, like from like the Human League, if you're old enough to remember a band in the 80s, a pop band called the Human League. That's what it kind of gives me that vibe. I don't know if that's what you're going for, but it sounds really cool. Okay, so lead vocals. Super loud compared to the rest of the band. Okay, so I'll pull the vocals back a little bit. Also, aside from that, even if you like an extra loud vocal, a lot of S's, there's a lot of so, watch the de-essing, right? And there's also a lot of breaths. I can hear between the phrases a lot of, right? So we want to kind of control that as well. So you want to kind of minimize the breaths. You want to go through that vocal track and you want to try to get rid of the S's. You can use a de-esser, or I would more recommend that you manually de-ess the vocals. If you want to know how to do that, you can check the YouTube channel. I have at least 2 videos on how to do that. And I do that in most of my training courses. I show how to manually de-ess. But anyway, S's, breaths, vocals, really loud. Got a lot of effects on there. And if that's the vibe you're going for, it's cool. It's got a very, like a very mid-room kind of a reverb sound. Which I think is a little heavy, but if you're going for that style, if you're going for that kind of 80s big reverby kind of thing, then it's appropriate. Let's keep listening.
When the old bull goes to Matador, I think that's the best. Like swap boy in the classroom who fails his final test. You know they had it coming. You know when something is right. That sense of satisfaction when the old bull wins the fight.
Okay, and instrumentation-wise, it sounds cool. It sounds like it's a lot of like synths and pads and that kind of a thing. You got things panned out really wide, which is great. Vocals up to center, which is cool. Just listening to this, it doesn't sound like there's a lot of tracks, meaning there's not a big session. It's pretty sparse in the instrumentation, right? You got some kind of a drum loop or some kind of a 808 synthy thing, kind of a synth in the background. You got some guitars, but they're hard to hear, and you got a bass, which sounds like a synth bass, and a vocal. And then when I look at the amount of plugins that you, just by the list of all the plugins that you gave me, my first thing, again, without talking to you, without seeing the session with my own two eyes, but just going by what's on the piece of paper, what I would probably do to give us some more clarity and to kind of balancing and clear things up, very first thing I would do is take every single plugin off the session. Okay, every single plugin. And I would just start with the faders and panning. And I'd get myself a nice static mix where things were balanced. And then the only thing I would use, and I think you did use it, I think you did mention it. Did you mention the stock EQ? Or no, I would be using, maybe that was the other one. No, you're using Pultec EQs. Okay, cool. I would be just using, oh no, here it is, the PreSonus Pro EQ. That would be the very first plugin I would use on every single track, and that's all I would use until I got the clarity and the balance and the panning right. Because what I suspect I'm hearing is that there's a lot of things that seem like they're kind of a little disjointed and kind of muddy, and part of the reason is probably because you got a ton of processing on this thing that you probably don't need all this processing. Again, without seeing the session, I can't confirm that for sure, but that's what my first instinct tells me, is that you got a lot of cool stuff happening here, and this has the potential to be a really good mix. But the first thing I would do is take all the plugins off, and I would start from scratch. And that's a good tip, really, for anybody that's listening. If you care to know where your starting point ought to be, is no plugins, right? Faders, balance, panning. Step one. Get it as good as you can. Get the separation right. Then step two, an EQ. Use your good old stock EQ. And listen for the problematic areas and get the clarity there. That's where we want to start before we start adding all these channel strips, and you got, multi-band compressors and all these, LA2As and Sound City and all that stuff. Before we do all of that, we want to start with the basics, because I feel like this has just got way too much processing on it. But let's just keep listening.
Swallow your coffee, you struggle and strive. Walk well through the fire. Fiction is an improvement on life, and truth outshines the liar. If you're gonna try, you gotta go all the way, with every beat of your heart. And if you fail, well, what the hell? At least you made a start.
And I also feel like I hear this song and go, this sounds like it would be in like a modern kind of a club, kind of an industrial vibe. Like I feel like I want to feel the low end, like that boom, boom, boom. Like I want to feel it hit me. And I don't feel like it hits me. Almost it feels like the low end is, I could hear it, but it's not impactful. It's more kind of clouded and a little bit mushy sounding to me. I think I would, and in this room with the system I have with a subwoofer, this thing should be hit me in the chest. It doesn't feel that way to me. I think that's another thing I'd be looking at. The low end of this thing, not just loud for loud's sake, but clarity and impact. So it's not mushy, it's more tight and focused. I think that would play nicely off the synthy kind of thing you got kind of going on, because it's got a very cool vibe. And then when you bring in that vocal with the kind of verby kind of effect thing, it kind of just gives it a cool feeling.
Nothing else will do. And if you
I mean, very cool tune, man. I love the vibe of it. The biggest challenge, if you had, two challenges, biggest challenge is the vocal, right? We got to get the vocal. We got to get rid of the S's, the T's. We got to level it with the music. The vocal it's not sitting in the pocket. It's very disjointed from the music. And that's one of the reasons why it's too loud. And then we also got to clean up the S's and the T's and the breaths. We got to get that. Again, the reverb choice, without talking to you, that might be you're going for that very mid-sized room kind of reverb, which is not my favorite. But again, for the style of music and maybe the era you're trying to kind of cop there, that might be appropriate. I'm more, I lean a little bit more towards plates or shorter halls as opposed to rooms for vocals, because it sounds very tunnely and kind of a little nasally. But if that's the sound you're going for, then you got it, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just want you to know that if you weren't going for that, that may be why. The room reverb might be the wrong choice of reverb. If you're going for that, then that's cool. It's more important to me that you can hear it and understand it and know how to get what you hear in your head to come out of the speakers. So the vocal, and then again, I would say the low end, like again, the impact or the lack thereof of that kick drum and that low ends. Because that's what this needs. And again, I would start with no plugins, and I would build it with just a stock EQ to start, and then drop in these other things maybe where you need to. That's what I would do in this mix. I hope that's helpful to you, my friend. Overall, really good job. Thank you so much for sending it. I do appreciate it. And I appreciate everybody that sends in your mix. Again, I tell people, Dave put the link in the description box. Go ahead, or in the chat. Send your mix in. It's not always an easy thing to send your mix in and have it broadcasted all over YouTube. I know it could be a little, but that's the only way you get better, right? The only way you get better at this thing is by getting feedback, by putting yourself out there. And no matter how bad you think you're doing way better than you think you are. And the way you get better at this faster is not only by mixing more and lots of more and more tracks, repetition, which is obvious, but then making sure you're getting the right feedback and the right training. So speaking of training for Pat, where I would tell, again, you've been mixing more than 5 years. Awesome, man. Here's what I would tell you. Because of the feedback that I gave you about using the EQ. First thing I want you to do is go download the free course on my website if you haven't done that already. We only use an EQ in that course. It's only 90 minutes long. Pick yourself up Mixing Made Easy Volume 1. I would start there. That will get you to maybe get rid of some of the issues that we heard in this mix tonight, put you on the right path. And then once you got that under your belt, then drop yourself into like a Mixing Made Easy Volume 2 or something like that, where we start using a lot of these third-party plugins, but we don't want to overuse them. That might be a good training path for you if you need it. You can always email me if you're not here on the live stream tonight. If you need some more guidance, I'd be glad to help you in any way I can. So there you go. Okay, Broderick Jackson is up next. Okay, let's take a listen and let's take a little read here of what he's got going on. So he's only been mixing less than a year. Okay, we got a newbie here. This is awesome. Okay, what instruments or plugins did he use? He used Native Instruments Complete Audio 6. Okay, this is his gear. He used the Native Instruments Complete Audio 6 interface with the PreSonus headphone amplifier. He mixed on Beyerdynamics DT770 headphones. Those are great. Oh, he also used the Dsonic RealPhones headphone plugin. I did a review on that. That's a great idea. Good choice, my friend. He used the Studio One Pro 7. He used the FabFilter Pro Q2. And he used the Studio One's Red Light Distortion Saturation plugin. Okay, great. His biggest challenge that he found in this particular mix was the compression was the hardest for me in mixing and knowing what low ends to keep and what low end to get rid of. Also EQing. Okay, great. So you've only been mixing less than a year. So without even listening to this, I'm sure it sounds fantastic, but just based on those comments of what your frustrations are, here's what you want to do. You want to pick up EQ Made Easy and Compression Made Easy. That will solve the two problems that you have. Okay? EQ and compression. And watch them in that order. Use the coupon code YouTube25, take 25% off. Once you watch those two courses, then we'll see based on your mix what mixing course I would recommend for you if we have one. but that's going to help you with those two problems, okay? Let's take a listen to your mix and let's see what you got here. Here we go. Hope everybody's in the chat. We're all doing well. We're all still alive. All right, Dave's there. Okay, good. Dave's chatting it, keeping everything in check. Here we go. Okay, so here's another one where we don't have any lead in. So as soon as I hit the space bar, we start hearing audio. Good idea to maybe put a second or 2 seconds at the beginning of the song just to make sure we didn't chop anything off. Again, you could have just, if you're doing it in Studio One, you can see on the screen, you got to make sure you have your end flag, your start flag and your end flag, or your start marker and your end marker. Make sure those are lined up properly. Give yourself a little bit of space. Just a helpful tip. Here we go.
Kick my feet up and enjoy the sound. Think for a second, then I write it down. Read back what I got for lovely sound. Whether my mood is upbeat or down, it's happy, happy, joy, joy, tears of a clown. Or somewhere in between, steady gaining ground. A great creation, interesting vibe I found. From sitting down and opening my mind, bringing it out. I decide to take a seat, play a beat, and construct. Until I get tired, run out, or get stuck. The topics that I touch can be nice or tough, depending on how the beat wakes me up. Something to enlighten me and be free to think and speak. An art that I...
Okay, first, for someone that's only been mixing less than a year, great job, my friend. Really good job. Okay, so this mix, what I like about it right out of the gate, it's simple as far as the elements. It's got a lot of clarity to it, which is great. It doesn't have some of that low-end buildup and stuff that we were talking about in the last couple of mixes. It's nice and clear, and I can hear everything really clear, which is great. Song like this, style like this, that again, that low end, the beat is great. I would want to hear more of that for me. I would want to hear more of that low end. I want to check out the EQ here and see where you got low cut filters happening here. Let's take a quick look at this.
most enjoy it at a full peak. The rhythm and the words are superb that I choose. I must admit my creativity has got me moved. It's jolly good fun as a pencil that runs. Getting good and into it, I be on one. Life is a trip, so I write to express it. When I have a rough issue, I write to address it. It's like a meditation and it blows off steam. It's like a art.
Okay, so you hear how that big boost here, what do we have, 62 hertz, about almost 6 dB. Big difference. Listen to when I take it away, how thin everything sounds. This style of music, that low end means a lot right now. It could be, I know you're mixing on headphones and you're using the Real Phones headphone plugin, which is fantastic. But here's the thing about low end, and here's something to be careful of with these kinds of plugins, like the Real Phones by Dsonic or the SonarWorks or any of those other, not SonarWorks, there's another one. Lewitt makes one, or the Slate VSX, those kinds of things. Here's the trap you could fall into with those things. There are so many different listening environments that you can choose in those headphones that, and they all sound vastly different from each other. One of the problems you can get into is you start cycling through all the different rooms to try to hear how your mix sounds, and you can never get it to sound, it sounds good on one, it doesn't sound good on another, and it sounds okay on another. You got to kind of pick one or two environments and kind of shoot for that, because your mix is never going to sound good in every single environment they put in that plugin, especially the Dsonic one that you were talking about, because that one, is that the one? Yeah, that one, I remember that had a million things in it, a million different environments, which is cool. There's a lot of options. It's too many options. So I would pick one or two to make sure that you're not chasing you're not just, chasing a moving target all the time with the rooms. Also, because you're on headphones, even though you're using really good quality headphones, I don't remember those headphones having a real good amount of low end in them. So I'm not sure. It looks like, I'm not sure if what you're hearing in your headphones or when you're listening sounds really big and bass heavy, and then you're making adjustments in your mix, and then I'm hearing it here in a room that's correctly tuned and it sounds thin, or you just erred on the side of caution. You don't want to put too much low end in. If it's the latter, make sure, and I should have said this with the other mixes as well, if you're not sure how much low end to keep or get rid of, because you were talking about that as one of your challenges, this is where reference tracks are so incredibly important. So in a song like this, I would pick a commercial release track of the same style of music, and I would use that as my roadmap, and I would be bouncing and listening to my mix versus the reference track to kind of gauge, okay, how does in your headphones, using your real phones plug-in, how does the low end sound with the commercial track versus mine? You see, a lot of people don't do that, especially people that have only been mixing a year or 2 years. They don't get hip to reference tracks. This is something that I teach in all of my training courses. Reference tracks are huge. So if you're not sure how much low end you should have, what are you comparing it against? That's the first way to kind of point you in the right direction while you're gaining the experience to know when you listen to a mix how much low end should be there without having to check a reference track. That just comes with years of experience and understanding the style of music that you're working in really well. And every style of music is a little bit different. So let's keep listening with our little boost here, and I'll take it away and you can hear the difference.
And I am a dope fiend, exciting and adventurous to my destination, and I'll be giving it my best until my resignation. I kick my feet up and enjoy the sound. Think for a second, then I write it down. Read back what I got for lovely sound. Whether my mood is upbeat or down, it's happy, happy, joy, joy, tears of a clown, or somewhere in between, steady gaining ground. A great creation, interesting vibe I found. So sitting down and opening my mind, bringing it out. Problems ain't heavy and things can get crazy. Light or darkest thing that I do is my baby. She listens as I talk while we.
I also think, and again, this is not my specialty of music as far as I don't mix a lot of rap. So without hearing a reference track, to know where does that vocal sit that low, or should it be a touch higher? My intuition tells me the vocal should be a little louder, just a little. But again, this is not one of my styles of music that I do a lot of, so I'm not that familiar. But I would be bouncing that off a reference track. The other thing is you got a nice pad, a nice drone pad happening in the background. I'd pull that forward a little bit, man, because all you got's the drum beat, that pad, and your voice. Probably other things in there too, but those are the main elements of this song, right? I'd want to hear that drone as much as I'm hearing now that kick drum, now that I brought that low end in. Right? Make sense? Let's keep listening.
Take a good walk, a charming thing to know. In her ways I get lost. She's my dear when things are not clear, I lay it on the line. When things get hectic, she's a safe place to find. So I take out a moment or two and do something cool. And an interesting song is what I look forward to. It's a gem, I like what was done on the pad. For taking out time to let it go, I am glad. A channel to sit and ascend for a moment. It's a world of color and I see the benefit from it. Details I see well, it paints a good picture. It gives me a chance to explain things bigger. It's crafty and magic, trendy and fashion. A habit that I pick up and put into action. I kick my feet up and enjoy the sound. Think for a second, then I write it down. Read back what I got for lovely sound. Whether my mood is upbeat or down, it's happy, happy, joy, joy, tears of a clown, or somewhere in between, steady gaining ground. A great creation, interesting vibe I found. So sitting down and opening my mind, bringing it out. The ending product is amazing and blazing. It's great what I made. The song goes crazy. I gave it my best like I was taking a test, and passed it with style and grace and with no regrets. Having a good time with the rhythm, writing rhymes. Taking a fly trip as I exercise a mind. Flexing my big muscle, yo, I be on a hustle. I gotta go and get it, punch the clock and I tussle. It frees me to be me, the instrumental leads me into a big world to observe and to see. The wonders of the mind, to me this art has become. The things that I say, the design that I find. My sense of creativity and accomplishment, beautiful, appealing. The works are astonishing. I take it to the mic and the track.
Yeah, or maybe bring the snare down a little bit too, because the snare is distracting me from the words. So either bring up the vocal or bring down the snare a little bit. But you hear how when I took away that low end, that 60 hertz bump, how the track falls really flat. Everything here sounds great. The clarity and everything, you got the sound down, the sonics. I think it's more now a balance thing. This is a club track, right? I mean, this thing, you should be doing this the whole time. So if you're not doing this the whole time, and what's making you do this? It's that kick drum that we didn't have before. And also too, it's got that groovy pad underneath. That's kind of the groove. And I'm kind of losing it, man. Right? You should be doing this the entire song. That song, it should be infectious. It's got the right groove. I just don't think the groove, aside from the drums, I think that drone, that synth underneath is a big part of that vibe. And then I would, more so than the snare, I would tuck the snare down and bring the vocal a little more forward. Also, this song is awfully long. It's like 5 minutes. I don't know if that's a standard kind of that seems like a long tune, but it's cool.
I read what I made, take a take after take. I kick my feet up and enjoy the sound. Think for a second, then I write it down. Read back what I got from lovely sound. Whether my mood is upbeat or down, it's happy, happy, joy, joy, tears of a clown, or somewhere in between, steady gaining ground. A great creation, interesting vibe I found. From sitting down and opening my mind, bringing it out.
Right there, that keyboard, that should be, that as soon as that vocal drops out, that keyboard should be the main part of the show. Yeah, so it looks like towards the end of the song, it's just that synth. So bring the synth up, bring the snare down, get you a little more low end. Aside from that, it's really good. I mean, here's a guy who's only been mixing a year. That's great. Believe me, I've mentored lots of people. A year in, usually people don't mix that well. So you have a good instinct. I would say use reference tracks for you to solve some of the things that you're struggling with. Knowing how much low end to keep in, that's a reference track. Same thing. EQing, I think your EQing's okay. I don't hear anything in there except for the little lack of low end that we spoke about. The rest of those elements are EQ'd okay. The thing when you're using a lot of sampled sounds, like those kinds of beats, like those kinds of synths and those little fills that are coming in, a lot of those things sound, all those sound libraries, I think you're using what, Native Instruments you said? Yeah, Native Instruments, Contact. A lot of those libraries already sound fantastic. They're already processed. So they're really meant to drop into your DAW and just go to work. You don't need to put a lot of processing on them. That's the whole point of really good sounding libraries. So don't feel like just because I have a track, I must need to do something to it. You know, the old adage is true. If it sounds good to you, it is good. Okay, not every track needs to have a plugin on it, especially when you're using libraries. Okay, so I hope that's helpful, man. I hope that's helpful. Great job. Great job. Okay, who do we got next? We got Craig Pollock is up next. Let's see what Craig has got going on here. I don't know if you're here tonight, Craig. Yes, Mike. Mike wants to know, do I explain these reference tracks in my courses? In all of them. Especially when we get to the ones like Mixing Made Easy Volume 2, 3, 4. Mixing with Analog Style. I mean, everyone. I don't think there's a course I have where we don't use a reference track. I don't. It is such a huge part of mixing. In some of the more advanced courses, we'll do some exercises where we're trying to copy the reference or get as close to the reference as we can. And that's not what a reference track is for, by the way. I'll just say this while we're here. The whole point of a reference track isn't just to try to copy somebody else's mix. That's not the goal, right? The goal is to use it as a tool, a roadmap to know where are we going sonically. We're not mixing blind, right? And if you're learning to mix and you're in the learning phase and the training phase, it is a good exercise to try to copy the reference as close as possible. That's great ear training. Now, the one disadvantage you have in something like this, if you're writing original music, the reference track is not going to be the same song. It's going to be a different song altogether, right? When you work with me in my courses, what we use is we use whatever song we're mixing, we have a reference track for that same exact song. So we can really compare apples to apples. I do that specifically to develop ear training. Okay, that's hugely important. And if you're someone, again, who gets involved in like our mixing membership, like the Mixing Academy, there are certain months where I'll give the students a challenge and we say, okay, the goal this month, I want you to match the reference track sonically in the balance as closely as possible. Even if you're not crazy about the mix of the reference track and you would do things a little differently, that's okay. The whole point of learning how to copy is then to go off and do your own thing and make it sound like you. Just like if you're a guitar player, right? You learn how to play guitar. What do you do when you first pick up the guitar? You want to learn your favorite songs, right? You want to learn how to play like your favorite players. And then you start copying and then you develop your own style from that. Mixing is no difference. Okay, so you use the reference track and we do those kinds of exercises to give you the ear training. So then when you hear something, you instinctively know what to do. Or if you hear something in your head and you go, boy, I want that guitar to sound like something in my head, you know what tools to reach for to do that. So the answer to your question, I think was Mike? Yes. Was it Mike? Yes. Is yes. And all the courses. All of them. Okay, Craig is up. Let's talk. Oh, Craig's got a, oh, wow. You can't see it here, but he's got a long list of stuff that he used on this track. Let's just pick out the highlights. So what did he use? So now here's one where I see all these plugins listed and I go, oh boy. Oh boy. But let's pick out some of the highlights. So he uses Studio One Pro 6. Awesome. And he uses a PreSonus Quantum interface. Great, man. And he uses the CLA NS10s for his mixing speakers. All right. All right. He's using all kinds of plugins. Everything from 1176's LA2As, E-channel strips. He's using Waves limiters. He is using SSL G-Bus compressors. He's using J37 tape machines. My goodness, he's using all kinds of stuff here. Decapitators. He's using tube plugins on basses. What else has he got here? Vintage tube saturators. I mean, he's got a lot of great stuff going on in here. It's a list too long to read. But he, you know, he's got what we call the kitchen sink. Now, that's not a bad thing. We haven't heard anything yet. It could be that the kitchen sink was required for this song. We're going to find out. Okay, what's his biggest challenge? His biggest challenge is getting the low end right. Okay, that's usually everybody's challenge. That's the hardest thing, by the way. He's been mixing more than 5 years. Usually getting the low end right is usually more about the mixing environment than what you're doing in your DAW, but we'll talk about that as we listen. So here's Craig's mix with the kitchen sink plugins, okay? And he has a hard time getting the low end right. That's his challenge. Let's see if we can help him. We got everything going? Here we go, Craig. Rock on, brother.
I don't wanna live a lie.
Okay, as soon as I hear that intro, and the very first thing I looked at, he's been mixing more than 5 years. Oh, yes, he has. I can tell as soon as I hear the first 20 seconds of that song. Okay, he's got the kitchen sink in here, but he used the kitchen sink, it sounds like, in an appropriate way. Let's go back to the beginning and let's listen to that again. So far, I like what I hear, Mr. Craig. Here we go.
I don't wanna live a lie. I believe in paradise.
Okay, so here's a guy that's at least the age of 45 to 55. He grew up in the 1980s, because that takes me right back to my high school days. That sounds like every 80s band that I heard, and it sounds great. If you're into that style of music, you got it. That's what it is. And it sounds really good. The only thing I hear thus far that I would tell you that lead vocal's got to be a little louder. I love all the effects on it. I mean, it sounds like it just dropped right out of 1985, man. And it sounds really good. As far as the low ends, you know, I think it's right where it kind of needs to be. You may want to argue the bass could be a little bit more low end, maybe a little more low ends, but you're not far off. You're not far off for that style of music, especially if you go back and use reference tracks and go listen to 80s hair metal. People think there's a ton of low end in it. Not really. I guess it depends on the bands, but certainly not, you know, the White Snakes and the Cinderellas and the Journeys and the Skiddy Rows and, you know, all those bands, because Dokken, this sounds like Dokken to me, man. And so I don't think your low end, at least in this particular mix, is far off. I just feel like the vocals should be more the star of the show. But so far, I'm liking what I'm hearing. Okay, so the only thing I added, and now in hindsight, I added a little bit here at 90 because I probably could go a little lower. And there's a center section where we did a lot of the double kick hits, and they were really hard to hear. So you maybe a little more low end would probably wouldn't be a bad thing. But you're not far off. Again, great job. If you're going for the 80s thing, that's it. That's the 80s thing right there. Sounds really good. Guitar playing is really clean. Vocals got, a mountain full of effects on them. And if you're in the 80s and you want that stuff, that's great. Great job, man. It's funny because you proved me wrong here, because when I get a list of this many, well, you guys can't see it. When I get a list and half the page is taken up with plugins, usually the mix has got lots of problems. There's way too much processing, and they overuse stuff. You didn't do that here. As far as for the amount of stuff that I see that you're using, it still sounds really clean, and it's got good separation, and you got the era down. You got the 80s thing happening. The playing is really good. The recording is really good. I think it sounds great. Little minor tweak here or there, and then everything else is just personal preference. Do you think the vocals got too much reverb on it or what? That's all just stylistic. But overall, I think it sounds really good. You've been mixing more than 5 years. Yeah, you've been mixing a while. This is great. You're a perfect candidate for the Mixing Academy. If Dave hasn't dropped it in the box yet, if you want to even go further than this, the Mixing Academy is where you want to be. So if you see this on the replay, or if you're here watching tonight, click that link, go out there and go check that out, and let me know if you have any questions. But that was a great job, man. Good job, Craig. Okay, last mix for the night is by Leo Rudd. Let's see what Leo's got going on here. Hope this is helpful to all you guys. Hope you guys are having a good time. I'm enjoying myself. Okay, Leo's been mixing for only a little less than a year. He used Cubase with all Cubase plugins. Look at that. All Cubase plugins, stock plugin guy, awesome. And his biggest challenge, when the signal comes in too high, I have to regulate it. It isn't much of a challenge though, when the mix sounds too chimey in the 1 to 2K areas. Okay. All right, cool. Let's listen to see what you got going on. Leo, okay, now Leo's got something going on here at the beginning. Let's see what the intro sounds like. Here we go. Leo Rudd. Okay, so you got a long intro there, about 20 seconds or so, which is cool if that's kind of the thing. Kick drum on this bass, I could hear it clipping like it's distorting. I don't know that you said you were using any you're using the oh, okay, I see you're using a brick wall limiter set at 0 dB. That's probably what it is. Using a tube compressor, the Cubase tube compressor. I don't know if you're using that on the master bus or on the kick. Anyway, the kick sounds like it's kind of clipping or distorting. I don't know if you're trying to achieve that with the tube plug-in to try to get some of that saturation. My guess is probably not. My guess is it's just coming in. You said something about things coming in too hot. The other thing I noticed is by listening to this, if I'm taking a look at the meters here, you're getting awfully close to clipping the whole track. And it sounds like on that drum loop there, these are all loops, and again, stock Cubase instruments and sounds, which sound great. You got a lot of reverb happening on the drums. My guess is, again, I could be wrong, and if you're here tonight, chime in and let us know. My guess is you have like one reverb set up on the session and you're sending everything to it. And especially that drum loop. I don't know that I would want to put that much reverb on the drum, especially because it's mostly a kick drum. As a matter of fact, I would keep it probably as dry as possible, or maybe just a very little hint of reverb. That'd be the first thing. And then again, I would be looking to, it sounds nice and big and beefy, but it sounds like it's, like I said, it sounds like it's clipping. And that we need to look at. We need to look at for sure. So one of the things that you mentioned is about that too. You could see there's a huge spike between like 4 and 5K. So my guess is you put a lot of top end on this. And that's what's getting that kind of chimey, kind of little bit ear fatiguing. You got a lot of top end. So if you just look at the EQ, just look at the spectrum. You can see we have a lot of bass, we had a lot of top end, and we got a very scooped mid. So here, I'm actually boosting the mids because it's so scooped. Remember, mids are going to give you some warmth. If you have a real big boom on the low end and a real big chimey thing on the top end, and you scoop out the mids, it's going to get very ear fatiguing very quickly. In this case, some mids is actually going to help kind of balance that out. But you saw how much I turned down the top end. So here's another example. Again, you've only been doing this a year. So you're at the very beginning stages, which is great. Here's what I would tell you, Leo. Go get my free mixing course. Go watch that. Same thing as we said a few mixes ago. Very first thing I would do, although you're not using a lot of them, I'd strip every single plugin off this session. I would start just with your EQ that I think you used here, the Cubase EQ. That's it. And before I even started using the EQ, we'd want to balance that low end, that top end, want to get a nice balance, right? If you're finding that, I'm telling you here, you have way too much low end and it's distorting. If you're not hearing that in your environment, I don't know if you're using headphones or if you're using studio monitors or what your mixing environment is like, but if you're not hearing that way too much low ends that I was describing, and you're going, no, in my studio, it didn't have that much low end, this low end sounded okay to me, then that tells me that your room isn't acoustically treated, or you have some problems with your room, that what you're hearing coming out of those speakers is not accurate. And that's a huge problem in home studios. Big problem. One of the biggest problems you could possibly have in a home studio. And they get all kinds of training that can help you with that. But we want to identify that first. What are we listening on? What monitor system are we listening on? What kind of room are we in? Are we using headphones? What kind of headphones are we using? So in other words, are you hearing accurately what's going on? And therefore, when you're making your EQ decisions, it's going to affect the mix in a way that you're anticipating, right? So that's usually when we have a low end that's really kind of, not correct. That's usually the very first thing I look at, especially with someone who's got less than a year of experience. It's usually the environment, not so much their ears that they can't hear that's the low end's not right. The room is not telling them, or whatever they're listening on is not telling them what the proper low end is, and therefore you can't make good, accurate decisions when you're doing your mixing. So we want to identify that. Then we want to get rid of all the plugins and just start with the faders. As I said earlier, faders, some panning. This song is great in that there's not a lot of elements there. There's very few things going on in the mix. You should be able to have nice clarity, nice separation, and a nice balance without too much problem. Using things like, you have a brick wall limiter on this, get rid of that. You don't need that. If you're mixing, if you have, I don't know, this doesn't sound like it has more than 10 or 12, 15 tracks in it. When you're mixing with your faders and all your individual tracks, you just got to take note of your master fader and make sure that the accumulative effect of all those tracks going to that main output is not exceeding about a negative 3-4 dB. Okay, You don't need to put a limiter on it and then bring it up and smash the limiter. That could be part of what I'm hearing in the distortion of the kick drum. You're overhitting a limiter and it's causing a lot of compression and then some distortion. That's what it sounds like. Get rid of all that stuff. But without talking to you, without seeing you, without chatting with you, to get you on the good path, on a good solid foundation of some good mixing habits, go get the free mixing course. Okay, it doesn't cost you a dime. It's 90 minutes long. Follow that and then use that same approach to every other mix you do going forward as a good starting point. And you're going to be starting with a really good foundation. And then we could start talking about building into some other training that might be able to help you depending on where you want to go with your mixing. Make sense? Make sense? Cool. All right. So do we have any questions at all? I know it's been a while. We've been about an hour or so here. I want to thank all you guys for sending in your mixes. And for the people we didn't get to tonight, we have another stack of them. We'll do those in another couple of weeks. Again, Dave will put the link in the chat if you want to submit your mix to have it in one of these broadcasts where I can give you some feedback. Go ahead and do that. And also, again, if you want to pick up any of the training courses on the website, use the coupon code YouTube25. That'll give you a 25% discount on anything on the website. And then also, depending on where you are with your mixing journey and where you want to go, you could check out the Mixing Academy. That's something that's really for people that are a little bit more serious, that really enjoy mixing and want to make their music sound the best that it can. So, do we have any questions? Anybody want to chime in, ask me anything? I'm here. I'll stay here for another 10 or 15 minutes and answer any questions that you guys have. Let me know what you thought of the live stream tonight. Do you guys like this format? Do you want to see me do more of these? Let me know if you guys want these things. That would be great. And Dave is putting all the links in the chat. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it, buddy. Gus, the next live stream will probably be in a couple of weeks. Again, if you're not on my email list at homerecordingmadeeasy.com, that's when you're going to find out about all these things and when things are happening. Go download the free course and you'll automatically be on my email list. And then when the next live stream is going to come up, I usually email you guys 4 or 5 days in advance so you know when it's going to come up. Probably a couple of weeks from now. I'm going to try to do these a little bit more regularly, where we'll do maybe 1 or 2 live streams a month. Maybe we'll do one where we do some mix reviews, and then we'll do another one where maybe I'll do a demonstration and we'll talk about a very specific concept to help you guys with your mixing. Mike wants to know, what is your headphone choice for mixing? Anything that's open back headphones is where I would start. That would be the number one thing. I use the Neumann NDH30s, which is an open back, but there's lots of good ones. Sennheiser makes some really good ones. I think the HD 650s or 350s, I can't remember the model number. I use the Neumanns, but I've used Sennheisers. Those are really good. Depends on how much money you want to spend, but try to get an open back headphone if you're going to mix on headphones, because you're going to get a more accurate bass response there. So that's what I would recommend. But there's lots of good ones out there, but Sennheiser and Neumann are the two that I know and I've used that I like. Any other questions? Anything else you guys want to know? Anything you guys want to ask me? Now's the time to do it. Nate says he does like these live stream mix reviews. Cool. We'll do more of these. We will. If we get enough people to send in their mixes, and I get a big pile of them, we'll sift through them over time. If you really want, if you want consistent mix critiques where you mix songs every month and I give you a personal mix critique every single month, that's where the Mix Academy would be something that you may want to check out, Nathan. That's something where you guys will get a new set of multi-tracks every single month. You'll be able to mix songs and I will critique them for you. Not live in public, but we'll be doing it as part of our live monthly coaching sessions with the members, and you'll get a mix critique from me every single month. And if you really want to get good fast at mixing, the best way is to get involved in a membership like that, because you're doing mixes every single month, different genres of music, plus you get to join a community of other like-minded engineers, and everybody kind of works and learns together. You're not in isolation, you're kind of working more or less in a group, which is really the best way to share ideas, share techniques, not just from me, but from your other fellow students. We're going to be launching that in January of 2026, just in a few months. So get over to mixingmadeeasy.net, get your name on the waiting list, because we're going to have a limited amount of spots. It's something you want to check out. How similar should the reference track be should be to my track, as similar as possible. If it's a different song, if you wrote an original song and now you're going to pick, like, say, a commercially released song, you want to pick a reference track of, if you're mixing your own music and you're trying to get a certain vibe, you want to pick a mix that you like in the same style of music is usually preferable. So in other words, if I was doing an 80s rock track that we heard from Craig, I wouldn't be using I wouldn't be using a Jay-Z track as my reference track, right? Makes sense? I would try to get something that was close in the same genre, and pick stuff that you like the sonics of, that you're like, if you're writing hard rock or metal or something, and you're like, okay, I'm writing a metal tune, I really dig the sound of the Metallica record, this specific record. Well, then pick a song off of that record. Kevin's got a question. When testing a set of speakers and monitors, what is your go-to song to test with? I haven't tested speakers and monitors in 15 years, so I couldn't tell you. I've been using the same brand of monitor forever. But I do have a set of tracks that I would normally listen to when I'm breaking in speakers. There's a few of them. I use a couple of Toto tracks from the 80s that are really clean. I would use, for rock, something like AC/DC. Back in Black's a huge one that I would use. And then I'll also use some more poppy stuff too. But I haven't had to really test monitors and break in speakers. Just use something that you really know what it sounds like. You know it really well. That's would be my advice. But I don't have a specific go-to song because I haven't had to buy monitors in a long time. I've been with the same brand of monitor for so many years. I already know what they sound like. Oh yeah. They're also, Dave's right, part of the Mixing Academy. There'll also be a community aspect. It's all laid out on the website, by the way. If you go to mixingacademy.net, you'll see everything that's there. But there will be, for the pro level plan, a communal aspect as well, where you'll not only have a user community like a forum, but we'll also be doing some sidebar, like Dave is suggesting, some private Zoom calls and things away from the membership for those members. That'll be, again, for the more higher tier membership. But it's a very communal thing, and it's really the best way to learn. I'm talking about for people that really want to get good at mixing. They really want to make their music sound the best it can, whether they're looking to ever make money with mixing or not, but they just want their music to sound great. That's the fastest way to get there. The second fastest way is the training courses that we talked about tonight. So, and Dave says, right, if you want to be on part of the next stream where we do some more mix reviews, send it to that link right there. Any other questions, anybody? I don't know how many people are here watching, but I really do appreciate you all watching. And again, if you're watching on the replay, all the links will be in the description box. You can go check that stuff out. And be part of the community. Then you'll know when I'm going to come on here and do live streams. The other thing you guys can do is you can send me or leave in the comments below, what other things do you want me to do for you on these live streams aside from mix reviews? Is there some specific things you'd like me to cover? Some topics you'd like me to cover? It could be anything, right? Anything you want. It could be, different aspects of mixing, talking about studio gear or home studio setup or whatever. Whatever you guys want, I'm here to try to help you any way I can. So ask your questions now. If you guys don't have any questions, we will head out of here and I'll go get me some dinner. So once again, I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. Kevin's got another thing. Here we go. Kevin, what do you say? The reason I ask, because one song I usually go to that works for me is Rock With You by Michael Jackson. It's another really good one. Just because of the arrangements and the effects that's tastefully done. Very high quality productions, very well mixed. Michael Jackson records, especially the old ones, have a really great stereo image and a really great clarity to them. That's another artist that would be great for reference tracks. You just know the way that stuff is supposed to sound. Are the HD 490s worth it for studio mixing? I don't know that particular. That's a headphone. I don't know that particular one. I know Sennheisers make really good headphones, but the ones that I've used, I think, were the HD I want to say the 600, 650, 700s, something like that. Those are the ones that I've found to be really great for mixing, very accurate. I don't know about the 490s in particular. Not sure. Maybe someone else here in the chat would have has some experience with those, but I don't. But if you get like the 650s by Sennheiser, I know those are really good. So I hope that helps. Any other questions? Anything else? Going once, going twice. All right, everybody. I want to thank you so much for joining us for our mix reviews here. Stay tuned to the channel. Stay tuned to Home Recording Made Easy. You'll know when the next stream is coming. And get your mixes sent in, and I'll feature you on the next stream. All right, man. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me tonight. I appreciate all of you. I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care, everybody.